It's been a fun series, and we're going to continue today. Today we are talking about how can I stop taking things personally? How can I stop taking things personally? Well, last week we talked about how we can see past our frustrations. This has to do, again, frustrations with kids, spouse, adult siblings, adult parents, close friends, roommates, all kinds of different relationships. How do we see past those frustrations that we all have? Every one of our relationships has those moments. And the other piece is how do we move away from taking things personally? So that's what we're talking about today. I want to jump right in. There's a passage in the Old Testament, book of Exodus. There's a passage I want to look at. It's a story, and I just want to look at the story because there's something in it that stood out to me, and it really ties in with what we're going to be talking about this morning. And so Exodus chapter 16, we're going to start in verse 2. This is after Moses. You guys may be familiar with the 10 Commandments. He leads Israel out of slavery. They're in Egypt. They're enslaved, and Moses, through God's miracles and power, he leads Israel out of slavery, and they end up in the wilderness, and they're wandering around. And it's been about a month and a half, just to give you guys reference, about a month and a half since they left Egypt. And it says this: in the desert, the whole community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. And Aaron was Moses' right-hand man. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted, but you've brought us out into this desert to starve the entire assembly to death," which is just a little bit fascinating to me. You're like, you know what? I wish we were still slaves, but we're out here free. You know, it's just like a very fascinating, like upset perspective on the reality of life. Verse 4, it goes on. He says, "Then the Lord says to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that is to be twice as much as they gather the other days." So Moses and Aaron said to the Israelites, "In the evening, you will know that it was the Lord who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning, you will see the glory of the Lord because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us?" Moses also said, "You'll know that it was the Lord when he gives you meat to eat in the evening and all the bread you want in the morning, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we?" And then he says this last line, "You are not grumbling against us, but against the Lord." Which I think is just like, it stuck out to me as I was reading through this week, knowing we're going to be talking about this idea of how do we take things, or how do we stop taking things personally. Moses is just clearly saying, I just want to clarify. And he says grumbling like 1,000 times in this passage, grumblers. I just wanted you to know that you're grumbling, and the grumbling is going to grumble and grumble. And he says, I just want to clarify, it's not about me. I'm not taking this one. It's about God. You're grumbling against God. I'm not taking this personally. And as I was reading that, I kind of was struck, because I for sure would have taken this personally. If I was the one that led a few 100,000 people out of Egypt, and we were kind of lost walking around the desert, and they started complaining and saying that they wish that they were either dead or still slaves instead of being with me, I probably would have taken that personally. I've taken smaller things personally from my kids who want a snack and a 15-minute car ride. There's this reality where Moses has this perspective where he says, I just want to make it clear, I'm not taking this one on. You are grumbling against God, not me. This is not about me. I'm surprised that Moses didn't take it personally. And Moses was far from perfect. Earlier in his life, as well as later, he made a lot of poor choices. But as I look through kind of what brought Moses to this point, there's so many different things that he could have taken personally from this experience. There's so many reasons why, if I were in his shoes, I would have taken those things personally. Moses was born into a Jewish family. He was born into slavery as a Jew. But his mom sent him down this river in this basket, and he ended up being raised in Pharaoh's house. Ultimate luxury, everything he could ever want, completely safe. All of a sudden, now Moses is this person that if I were Moses, I would feel like everyone is judging me because of my experience. I got out. I didn't have to deal with what they had to deal with. Why would they trust me? Why would they want to listen to me? Moses, ultimately, as he got older, he started to see how the Egyptians were mistreating the Israelites, and he ended up killing an Egyptian guard. He killed this guy. And the Israelites, some of them that saw it, they were like, oh, wow, what are you going to do? Kill us next? Just really calling him out on his choices. And then Moses has to go and say he speaks on behalf of God. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience where you want to do the right thing or you want to try and tell somebody what to do, and then all of a sudden you have all these poor choices you've made flash through your head. Like, well, I don't know why they'd ever listen to me. They know what I've done. They know the mistakes that I've made. There's all of these reasons that Moses has to take these things personally and assume that it's about him. Moses, after this happens, he runs and he hides for decades. He had a speech impediment of some sort. The scriptures say Moses didn't have directions and was more than a little bit lost in the wilderness with the entire nation of Israel trying to figure out where they were going. I feel bad when I'm driving and someone's following me and I have to make a U-turn. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm the worst. They think I have no clue what I'm doing. There's this reality. I don't know why Moses didn't take this personally, but I was just struck with his ability to say, this isn't about me. You're grumbling about God. Your grumbling is about something else, someone else, and he refused to take this on. And if I'm being honest, I take way too many things personally. I don't know how you guys are with this. I feel like in most of my experience, there's kind of two groups of people. One group of people, which I would fall into, tend to take everything personally. And the other group should probably take a few more things personally. That's generalizations. But I feel like there's kind of tends to be two different groups of people. There's some that tend to take a lot of things personally, and then there's others that, surely it can't be my fault. This can't be about me. This is everybody else's issue. And I don't know which side you fall into, but either way, we're talking about this idea, how do we stop taking things personally? I know for myself, I struggle with insecurities and defensive-ness. Comments that people make to me, I'm always trying to figure out what they really meant by that comment. Anytime someone, that I work with or a friend or even someone from the church, if someone's like, hey, I'd love to get some time to talk with you. In my mind, I'm like, they hate me. I'm getting fired. It's always like, I just have this ability to always assume like I've screwed up I've done something somehow. Phone calls, compliments, somehow it's like, yeah, what did they really mean by that thing? And some of you guys may be laughing because you do the same thing, and those of you that aren't laughing are probably like, this guy is weird. This guy needs some significant help in his life. We all have these moments when we take things personally, and when I take things personally, I believe that life is all about me. Whenever I take something personally, what I'm really choosing to believe is that life and everything that's happening is all about me. It's all about me. It's all about what's happening to me, around me, with the people in my life. They're all focused on me. Their lives' primary intention is about me. Every issue that they're having is about me. It's an incredibly broken, twisted, and gross perspective. But when we take everything personally, this is really what we're saying. It's, man, everything is about me. One of the things that my wife continues to say, especially as our kids get older and we're trying to navigate, I've got a 6 and a 10-year-old, and we're trying to navigate how to have relationships with them and teach them the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do, and then just the normal day-to-day stuff about what they need to do. And over and over and over again over the last few years, she's articulated, you're taking this personal, and it's not about you. He's 6. He just doesn't want to go to bed. It's not that you're a bad father. It's that he's 6. It's not about you. Stop taking it personally. And what I want to say, and I feel like I articulate this often, especially when we talk about relationships, is that this is not a sermon or a message or a topic that I teach about or teach or preach from because I have arrived to some sort of plateau of having it figured out. This is something that I talk about as I'm on the journey myself, because we're all figuring this out. We're all trying to find how to have healthier relationships. We all want to and desire to have more depth in our marriages, more connection with our kids, a healthier conversation with our siblings. And maybe you've had some of these challenges where you start to take things personally as well. Maybe it's the way you're greeted by a coworker in the morning, or weren't greeted by a coworker in the morning. Maybe it's a proposal that wasn't accepted by a boss and you take that personally. Maybe it's the car behind you that's riding on your tail and honking. Maybe it's a conversation you're having with a friend, and in the middle of that conversation, they pick up their phone or they look at their phone. There's a sense of, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Maybe it's how your kids didn't acknowledge you when you got home, or your spouse didn't comment on something that you had done around the house. Maybe it's that you felt unseen at an event, or even here at church. There's reasons why all of us, we kind of fall into this trap of taking things personally. And in those times when it seems personal, it's important for us to remember that people rarely do things because of you. It's almost always because of their decision, their life, their past, their experiences. I heard one person say it this way. They said, not everyone is making a cameo in your movie. Not everyone in your life is making a cameo in your movie. You're making a cameo in their movie. We all view ourselves, whether probably not intentionally or consciously, but we are the main character in life. And so we assume that everything happens is because it's my story. It's my movie. It's my life. And they're all interacting and responding or not responding or commenting, whatever it is, because it's my story and it's my life. But the reality is that they are the lead in their own movie, and they're going to act according not only to their wants and their needs, but also to their history and their past experiences, to where they are in their emotional health or their developmental health or relational health. All of these things impact the way that other people speak to me, respond to me, speak to you, respond to you. Not everyone is making a cameo in your movie. You and I are not central to every story, so not everything that people do or say or how they react is about you. Taking things personally is the maximum expression of selfishness because we make the assumption that everything is about me. Romans chapter 12 says it this way. Paul is writing, he says, by the grace that was given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith that God has distributed to each of you. Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought. What he's articulating here is this idea that you don't need to think of yourself bigger than you are. You don't need to think of yourself more highly than you are. You don't need to think of yourself more central than you are. Not everything is about you. Not everything has to do with you. Not everything is about your level of perfection or knowledge or even your mistakes or your struggles. This word think, the Greek word that's translated to the English word think, rather, it's not just about having a thought, but it actually is about our overall mindset. He's like, don't have a mindset where you view yourself as more than you are. And don't have a mindset where you view yourself as less than you are. We should try and have ourselves be right-sized in relationships with other people. It's not all about you. Also, some things may be about you. It's not that you know everything, but you do know some things. He wants us to form an accurate picture of ourselves in our own minds, to not consider ourselves more important than we are. The verse just before this one, actually, he says to not conform to the pattern of the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. There's this process of having a renewed mind where we start to see ourselves in an accurate and a healthy way, and we start to see others in an accurate and healthy way. So I want to just talk through two kind of practical things, of two strategies of how to stop taking things personally. Two strategies. So the first one is this idea that we've already kind of touched on a little bit. It's not about me. The first one is it's not about me. So as you start to take things personally, as I start to take things personally, one of the first things that I need to start thinking when I'm with my kids or when I'm in these relationships or I get that phone call or whatever the thing is, it's not about me. when I'm driving down PCH and somebody is like honking their horn behind me and I flip them, no, I'm just kidding. It's not about me. It's this decision to say, you know what, it's not about me. Not everything is about me. Not everything is about you. Almost everything actually isn't about me. Almost everything isn't about me. Even in this room, yes, I am on a stage, but there is a lot of people in here with a lot of experiences and a lot of family and a lot of stuff going on at work, at home. Maybe you got a flat tire on your way here. There's so many things going on. It can't possibly all be about me. And when I take things personally, that friend looks at their phone during a conversation, or the honking of the horn as somebody is riding behind me, or my kid throwing a fit at bedtime, I'm convinced it's always about me. But the reality is, it's almost always about them. It's almost always about them. I was thinking about this. I don't know if this is going to work, so bear with me here. It's the perfect time for me to drop something expensive. Let's see here. I was thinking about this idea this week. Let's see if this works. Oh, boom. Perfect. Look at that. Dion, you did it. So every person, we all have so much stuff going on. Hopefully, those of you that are watching online, you can see this as well. We've got our past. We've got hurts. We've got sleep, or maybe no sleep, depending on what stage of parenting you're at. We've got family, the family we were raised in, how they navigated their relationships. We've got what's going on at our job, our health, our friendships, the food that I had. Did I have that greasy burrito for lunch? Is that what's happening to me? Fears, stock market, stress, anxiety, insecurities, relationships, love, dating, marriage, money, finances. Every one of us has all of these and so much more happening. And so what happens oftentimes is I'm going about living my day-to-day life. You're going about living your day-to-day life. And I end up in a situation where other people's experiences are projected onto me. The person honking the horn is going through something, because I speed all the time. I'm not a slow driver. They certainly can't be honking at me. My 6-year-old throwing a fit on the steps, it's because he doesn't want to go to bed. It's because he's exhausted and he needs to go to bed. It's not actually about me. The person that looks at their phone, maybe it's a babysitter, maybe it's an important message that they've been waiting for. There's this projection of what their experiences are that's laying over top of me. And I have to recognize, as I start to take some things personally, I have to recognize, wait, this is actually about them. This is probably about something that's going on in their life. This probably has so little to do with me. But from their perspective, there is this projection of these issues, these challenges that are happening. When we look at the possible intention of the other person, we make space for understanding instead of irritation. When we look at the intentions, the possible reasons that other people are doing things or saying things, when we can even just use our imagination and wonder, well, I wonder if that person in that car behind me honking their horn, I wonder if there's someone in the back seat that had a heart attack and they're trying to get to the hospital. And I don't need to be upset about that. I wonder, maybe the person that's looking at their phone, maybe, like I said, their babysitter is calling them, and it's the first time they've left their kid with another person. Maybe my kid doesn't actually hate me. Maybe they just don't want to go to bed. Maybe there's other reasons, and we have to look for the possible intention of the other person. Make space for understanding instead of irritation. It's not easy, though. There's an article released by the National Science Foundation. They said the average person, do you guys want to guess how many thoughts a day the average person has? Up to 60,000 thoughts a day. And the crazy part is that they found that 80% of those thoughts are negative. That's insane. 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative, which means all of the thoughts, 80% of the thoughts that we're having about why someone might say or do or interact or treat me or not treat me or ignore or acknowledge, 80% of those thoughts are negative thoughts. So there's this process that we have to start to go through because it's not easy and it's not natural. We have to start to choose to say, when I start to take things personal, I have to say, you know what? It might actually not be about me. It might be about something that they are projecting onto me, something that they're going through, a way that their parents' marriage was, and that's why they're treating me as their spouse about this way or this type of way. Maybe it's something about something that happened at work or whatever it is. It's this decision to say, it's not all about me. It's not all about me. The second tool, the second way that we can start to stop taking things personally is that it's only about me. I know it's confusing. I didn't totally screw this up, I promise. So the first thing is that we can say, you know what, it's not all about me. Not everything is about me, and there's a really good chance that whatever is happening is actually not about me. But there's a second possibility, which is that it's only about me. And this is something that we have to start to recognize. And actually, this is something that for those of you that may fall into category B, the people that assume that it's never actually about you, this may be something that you would want to start to begin to process through. When we start to think that it's only about me because it has something to do with my own insecurities, my own fears. When we start to think that it's only about me, is when we start to say, you know what? I bet that Steve's looking at his phone because I'm boring. I start to say, you know what? I bet Haywood is nodding off because he hates me, you know? We start to, and it's not actually about them, it's actually only about me. What they're doing that I'm taking personally is actually about me. It's my own insecurities. It's my own fears. What they're doing that I'm taking personally, it's not that they actually said that they don't like me, it's that I have an insecurity that someone might not like me. What they're doing where they're making me feel like I'm not loved, or my spouse is making me feel a certain way, or my kids are making me feel like they don't trust me or respect me, or my coworkers, or whatever those things, it's actually not about them. It's about my own insecurities. If someone came up to me and said, Chris, you are an orange, I wouldn't take that personally because I'm not. I'm not even close to being an orange. There's nothing orange about me. It's not even close to, I don't have a fear or an insecurity about that being true. But if someone came up to me and said something along the lines of, Chris, like, it felt like you were ignoring me at dinner, I would probably freak out because I want people to understand that I do love them and that I do care about them. And I actually know that I'm pretty easily distracted by my phone. And I'm afraid that I might have hurt them on purpose. There's this possibility that it's not about us and people are projecting their stuff on us. And there's also a possibility that I'm taking something that you said personally, that you're taking something that your spouse said or your kids said or your friend or your coworker said personally because it is about you. And there's an insecurity or a fear or a weakness or a concern that you have internally, doubts about yourself. The comment may be neutral, but we're taking it personally because of our own stuff. Is this shining in anybody's eyes? Should I stop this? Okay. I think there may be an opportunity for you and for I to realize some of the internal work that we need to do. When we start to take things personally, when I start to awaken to the fact, which I have over the last 6 months. Again, I keep using this example because it's a real example about my kids freaking out at bedtime. It's like, well, what is it about me that gets so upset every time this happens? What's going on in my heart, in my mind? What is it about me that can't handle this ever at any point in time? All of a sudden, it's a cue that maybe there's something that I need to work in. Maybe there's some internal work, some growth or healing or transformation that I need to do. Just like Paul said that we need to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Maybe I need to do that. And so we get to ask ourselves, what is the lesson for me in this? If it's not about us, there's an opportunity for us to say, okay, well, what's the possible intention? What could somebody else be going through? And if it is about us, then it's a possibility for us to say, okay, is this something I need to grow in my relationship? Because I'm taking this in a really hard way, and they didn't mean it that way. when I take things personally, it's because I believe life is all about me. And it's important to acknowledge that taking things personally can be a powerful, powerful drug. I think that when we turn hurt feelings into being offended, we go from vulnerable to being armored. And the reality is, in our relationships, none of us really want to be vulnerable. It's scary to be vulnerable because we can be hurt. And so when somebody does something, we start to take things personally. When we take an offense on, all of a sudden we have a reason to become armored. In Proverbs 18, it says, "An offended friend is harder to win back than a fortified city. Arguments separate friends like a gate locked with bars." There's this reality that when we're upset, when we're hurt, we go from, I'm in a relationship, I love this person, it's my spouse, it's my kid, it's my siblings, it's my parents, it's my coworkers, a close friend, roommate. When we get hurt, all of a sudden we get to drop the gates. We get to say, okay, no more. And there's this power and safety that starts to come with this reality that, great, I'm not going to trust you anymore. You burned me once, and that's all you're going to get. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to try this again. And then we just begin to navigate a relationship as the writer of Proverbs says, this fortified city. It's easier to imagine the person that hurt us or offended us as a villain rather than own that maybe our hurt has to do with our own insecurities or fragilities. As we wrap up, I think it's important for us to hold on to this truth, this reality, because there's no way to experience a close relationship without exposing some of our insecurities. The people closest to us eventually start to learn about the things that we're insecure about. And real relationships exist in a cycle of rupture and repair. And you guys get this. You guys all have friendships and relationships and things at work and at home in different ways. You understand that there's a relationship and you have a rupture, something happens, you say something that you didn't mean, or you interpret something in a way that somebody else didn't mean, or you make a mistake or screw up somehow, and there's a rupture that starts to happen. And when that rupture happens, that's what the writer of Proverbs says, we fortify this city, and all of a sudden there's this safety and there's this power where he said, nope, I'm not going to let it happen anymore. But to continue building a healthy relationship and to reconnect and to find value in that other person, whether it's a kid or a spouse or a friend or a partner, we have to pursue repair, an attempt to reconnect. We have to show empathy and warmth and curiosity. And today, I think that there's a couple things for us as takeaways. I think the first thing is that maybe some of us need to start thinking that it's not all about me. Maybe for some of us that are taking things personally, we need to start recognizing it is about me, and I'm actually projecting my own insecurities and fears on other people. And maybe there's some of you in this room today that actually need to go try and repair a relationship that has been ruptured. You've dropped the gates, you've fortified the city, you have shut everything down. It's like, great, I'm in power now. It's like that, I'm the captain now. Nothing else is going to happen to me. You're not getting back in. And there's an invitation for us, especially with the people that we should be the closest with, the people that we love, that we want to be close with. There's an invitation for us to go and try and repair the rupture that has happened. That's my challenge for you this week, but it's my own challenge for myself this week because none of us are exempt from this. It's not about me. I need to make space for understanding the other person and imagining what may be going on in their heart, their mind. Or it's only about me. And I need to take time to define an area that I need God's help transforming, overcoming, letting go of. Let's pray together.